If you've been trying to get pregnant for a while and have been told it's time to try an IUI or intrauterine insemination, there are a few things you should know to increase your chances of success if you're going to do that. In this video, I'm going to share my best tips so you can get pregnant with your next IUI and hopefully not have to do multiple rounds. If you're excited about this, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to Fertility TV to get new fertility videos every week right in your inbox. Many of the members of my Hope program join after having failed IUIs, or multiple failed IUIs for that matter. And in most cases, they are able to get pregnant on their own after a few changes with their hormones, health, and lifestyle. So first, let me ask you this. Why are you doing an IUI? Or why are you considering doing an IUI? Is there any physical reason you need this? Or are you doing this because your doctor didn't really know what's the root cause that's not allowing you to get pregnant? So they said, hey, why don't we just try an IUI and see if it works? I tell you from experience, as I've been helping couples get pregnant for the last 20 years, locally right here in San Diego and worldwide with my online fertility coaching program called Hope Fertility Program. And in many cases, IUI was not the right next step for them. And I want to make sure that if you decide to move forward with it, that it is the right next step, and more importantly, that you're going to be successful if you do. Okay, so before I get into my tips, there are a few things that we need to cover. First and foremost, what is an IUI? It's called intrauterine insemination. So the best way to explain that is using my little example right here. Okay, so this is a uterus. I'm gonna slide over here so you all can see this properly. And intrauterine insemination is where your partner gives a sample of his sperm. They wash it and spin it and get all the good ones. They put it in a syringe. They insert a catheter through your cervix, into your uterus, into the back of your uterus. Sometimes if they know that they want it to go one direction or another, then they will also angle it one way or another. Then they insert the sperm, they inject the sperm into the uterus. So it bypasses the cervix, it bypasses the vagina and goes straight into your uterus to give them the maximum chance possible to meet the eggs that are released out of these little guys, your ovaries, and make their way through the fallopian tube. And the sperm and egg meet somewhere in the fallopian tube. So that is what an IUI is. And so we want to maximize those chances and make them as successful as possible if that's the direction that you're going to go. Now that we know what an IUI is and why it's potentially beneficial for you, I want you all to ask yourself these questions for that matter. Have I done all the right testing to know what the root cause is? Have you? Have you understood what the root cause is? Have you done enough appropriate testing, either on your own, with another provider, with your fertility doctor or OBGYN, to understand why you really need this procedure and if it's going to be beneficial for you? That's an important question. Do you have any physical reasons why you might need an IUI? By physical reasons, I mean, are there any male factor related issues that might be contributing to your problem? IUI is really most effective when there is a male factor issue because the sperm have a hard time getting through the uterus, through the fallopian tube and meeting the egg. So is there male factor, which happens in 50% of all fertility cases, so very well could be, but do you know that that is there? That is an important question that you need to ask yourself before you even attempt this. And am I okay with doing IUI, or would I prefer to get pregnant naturally? Because I don't want you pushing yourself into IUI just because someone recommended it if you don't really want to do it or potentially don't even need it. And what other options are there to help me get pregnant naturally that I should try before I move forward with IUI? So these are some questions that I want you to ask yourself before you even attempt to do IUI, because you might not even need to do that or want to do that as your next step. But if it is, then right now I want to cover the 5 tips that I hope you can start to incorporate to make your next IUI, if you have one, as successful as possible. Okay, so tip number 1 might seem silly and odd and really, obvious and straightforward, but I can't tell you how often this one doesn't happen and is ignored, and I'm quite frankly frustrated by it. So make sure that your fallopian tubes are open. Well, why? Well, I just gave you this example, right? Like what an IUI is. And I also told you that the egg from the ovaries and the sperm from your partner meet in the fallopian tube right here. If this guy is closed off here or here at the opening, the egg can't make it through, the sperm can't meet the egg, and they can't fertilize here to come back into the uterus to implant. That can't happen. But if you don't know if these are open, then you don't know if you're going to be successful. So I urge all of you to make sure that your fallopian tubes are open, or at least one is open if you're going to move forward with IUI, so that you have a real chance of it being successful. Okay, there are multiple procedures that you can use for that. You can use a FemView, which is more water-based with bubbles, or you can use HSG, which is dye. But either way, we need to make sure that your fallopian tubes are open. Point number 2 is you need to contemplate and discuss with your medical team what medication you're going to use and which one might be best for you prior to the IUI. In some instances, many of you might say, I want to do an IUI, but I don't want to take any medication because I ovulate properly and on time. So I just want to try naturally, or what's called a natural IUI, right? Where there's no intervention, no medication, just the insemination of the sperm. Others might say that, hey, you know what? I do think I need a little bit of help with ovulation. I'm not sure if I ovulate on time or at the appropriate time, or if my ovulation is strong enough. So I need to take medication to make sure that I ovulate. So you might need a trigger shot. Or some of you might say, I need or want to recruit more eggs that could mature and ovulate out. So I want more stimulation of the ovaries to produce more eggs. So that might be where you're using Clomid or Letrozole, or even injectables in some cases, to help you mature more eggs from your ovaries, right? More eggs from your ovaries, so that you have more of a chance. Now, I think personally, if you're gonna go do IUI, maybe a natural cycle here or there might be fine. But in general, the whole point is to increase your chances. So if you're just gonna get one follicle, one egg to mature and release, then for that, my thought is that you might as well try naturally, unless there's a real male factor piece involved, and then IUI is appropriate. Otherwise, I do recommend using some sort of stimulation medication. You can discuss this with your doctor, because then at least you have more eggs that are maturing and ovulating and releasing, and it gives you a higher chance of success. So that would be my other thought here for all of you who are trying that, and not something to contemplate right when you're about to start the process, but before, and at least have those discussions with your medical team in advance. All right, point number 3, is your partner ready? Male factor is a huge piece. 50% of all fertility issues are male factor related. I said this earlier. And timing is also crucial when it comes to IUIs and natural conception. So your partner has to be an active participant in this process, especially if you're doing IUI. And so we want to make sure that they are on board, they're ready, they're willing, they're able, and they're not going to put up a big fuss. First, what that means is they should have already been tested. So hopefully they already had a semen analysis and you know that they're good to go. You should not be doing an IUI if you have not already had a semen analysis done to know what those numbers look like, to know if you need an IUI, or what that might, if you're even qualified to do an IUI with your partner because of the amount of sperm that they have. But also making sure that they're ready. You might need them at certain days, certain times, and if they travel a lot for work, like, you all have to be on the same page. So I want to make sure you have a good conversation with your partner to make sure that the both of you are on the same page and ready to move forward so that this can be successful. Point number 4, do I do one IUI or back-to-back IUIs? And I know what many of you are thinking. You're saying, well, back-to-back, well, yeah, we can do consecutive IUIs from one cycle to the next. That might be needed too, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, do we do one IUI in a given cycle, or with that same ovulation, do we do 2 IUIs, back-to-back IUIs? What I mean by that, before I tell you which one I prefer, what I mean by that is, if you're ovulating on cycle day 14, for instance, should we do an IUI on cycle day 13 and day 14, or day 14 and day 15? That's what I mean by back-to-back. So consecutive days in the same cycle, in the same IUI cycle. Okay. And I'm a big fan of that, actually. I'm a big proponent of doing back-to-back IUIs in the same cycle on consecutive days, because that's what I have found has maximized results and gotten the best success rates with IUI. Those couples who I have coached and convinced and have followed through with it have had the most success doing IUIs versus those who have just done a single insemination on a given cycle. Now, the other question with this is, do we do back-to-back cycles? And I do think that that's important as well, which takes me to point number 5, or tip number 5, is you have to give yourself enough time and attempts to even know if this is going to be successful. So one IUI alone is probably not enough data and information to know if that's the right tip path for you. But doing at least 2 or 3 or 4 in a row consecutively, back to back, I'm not saying you can't take maybe a cycle off here or there, but giving yourself enough opportunities with IUI will allow you to understand if this made sense for you. Was this the right path? Did you maximize your chances? And what should you do afterwards? So those are my 5 tips for all of you. Now I want to hear from you. Which one of these 5 tips were your favorite? Which one have you already tried, or multiple ones? Which ones have you tried in the past and were they successful? And even better, if those of you watching have tried an IUI and been successful and gotten pregnant, I definitely want to hear from you. We want to hear, we want to know those successes and congratulate you on that. So please comment below and let us know. If you are really serious about getting pregnant, head to marksklar.com/discovery call. I will leave that link in the description below as well to speak to a real human on my team so we can identify if having me as your fertility coach is the right next step for you. And if that is not the right next step right now, then I want to give you another resource. Make sure to check out this video next, the 4 hormones you need to get tested to get pregnant without IVF so that you don't have to waste your time and money. Check that video out now. All right, everyone, until the next video, stay fertile.